Welcome back to my channel, Chinahan, where I discuss and analyze China from a spiritual perspective because there are no political solutions to the spiritual problems that ail China. Today's transmission I'm going to entitle An In-Depth Analysis of the Big Whites in China. Now, for those of you that don't know what big whites are, they are the people that you see during the zero COVID policy quarantine lockdowns dressed in white protective gear. All white. You can't see or identify who these individuals are. You can only see their eyes. And I find that quite disturbing because since you cannot identify them, they feel empowered to do things that they normally wouldn't do if they didn't have that protective gear shielding their identity. Now, why am I calling this an in-depth analysis of the big whites in China? Because I want to make a comparison with the Red Guards of the Cultural Revolution during the time of Chairman Mao. I believe there's a correlation between the big whites and the Red Guards. I like to refer to the big whites as the modern day white guards 2.0. Now, in China, like in most societies and cultures, colors play important roles and represent certain feelings, ideas, and thoughts. And I find it interesting that these modern day white guards, whose purpose is basically to carry out and implement as so-called volunteers the zero COVID policies of taking people or forcing people into quarantine zones or prison camps, for lack of a better word, or confining them to their apartments, or forcing them to take these nucleic acid tests daily, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Now, I'm not going to get into the nucleic acid tests now. That's a different topic. But I want to make a comparison between these white guards who you've seen in numerous videos circulating online and social media violating young people, elderly people, physically impaired people. They don't care. They're doing this because they were ordered to do so. And many of them think that they will be rewarded for carrying out the commands of their leaders and employers. But as you look at history, these kind of people are usually temporary. They're just used for a particular purpose, and once their purpose, like Sun Tian, the aforementioned AI scientists, they will be quickly discarded. And you're seeing that now in protests of these big whites in Shanghai. They're not getting paid, they're not getting what they signed up for. Well, actually, they are getting what they signed up for, in a sense, but they're not getting their supposed salary, or some of them are not getting the amount of salary that they were promised. Also, some of them are stranded after their assignment is complete in the city that they were working in, because most of these people are not from the local area. They have to be bussed in to that local area, and it's kind of a cultural thing, because you'll probably have these people from a different province coming to another province, and they feel empowered because the government gives them that power to basically bully and abuse, under the auspices of zero COVID policy prevention, their fellow man. So it's kind of like a person that has been given a feather, and in his mind, he thinks it's a sword to go around abusing people with. So you have these big whites that essentially cover their faces. They go around abusing people, and they think that in the end they'll be rewarded for it. Now, during the Cultural Revolution, the purpose of the Red Guards was basically similar to these big whites in Shanghai and Beijing during this COVID zero prevention policy. They say that they're protecting people and it's for their own good, but in fact, it's not. They've caused more harm and damage psychologically to the local people than the virus has. The purpose of the Red Guard during the Cultural Revolution was basically to act as enforcers and attack anyone, even their parents, even their loved ones, even their friends, even their neighbors, who believed and still believed in the four O's of Chinese society. For example, old customs, old culture, old ideas, and old habits. The Communist Party did not want anybody to continue to believe in these four O's, and they hired these Red Guards to savagely, brutally attack and oftentimes murder neighbors, family members, and friends who did not go along and toe the party line. And this is the same thing that you see going on in China today, regardless of how ridiculous these policies are. I mean, ridiculous. I don't have to go into detail, but you just go online and you search. Some of the things are beyond, they're illogical. They're beyond common sense. They're illogical. But yet, they were hired to help stamp out a virus that they can't even see, they don't even understand, and don't even have any working educational or scientific knowledge of. So that's a recipe for disaster in and of itself. But I just wanted to make that comparison where colors play an important role in Chinese society, where white is essentially a pure color, and perhaps they use that color to make the people not afraid of these big whites. Basically, they are using some form of, I guess you could say, psychological warfare against their population, where they're psychologically disarming them and making them believe that these people are there for their own good, when in fact they're not. And it's interesting because white is one of those colors in China where people like. It's considered pure, it's considered clean, but these big whites and the things that they're doing to their fellow Chinese people are not even close to pure and clean and honorable and humane. And during the Cultural Revolution, they called them Red Guards because traditionally red is another color in China that is a positive color, prosperity, etc., etc., etc. So during the Cultural Revolution, people were not afraid of these individuals. Most of the time, they were people that they knew that had these red armbands and went around with a red book with all the slogans of Chairman Mao inside, chanting and quoting and proclaiming his beliefs and his thoughts. And you have the same thing that's going on right now with what they call Xi Jinping thought. It's similar to Chairman Mao's thoughts in the Red Book. It's a way that they propagandize and brainwash the majority of these weak-minded lemmings. And it's sad because it's a form of deception. And the majority of the people in China are delusional to the point where, as you can see, they will kneel down and bang their head on the floor as they're getting beaten and kicked. And they will, afterwards, try to go to Beijing because there's a custom where Beijing is the seat of power, and if there's a problem that you have with the local government, you cannot resolve the problem locally. You want to go to Beijing and petition the capital government to intercede on your behalf, which is ridiculous. That's one of the things that just boggles my psyche when I read about it and I see about this. I see this on the news. These people try to go to Beijing to petition the same people that gave the jobs to the local people to beat and abuse them. So it's a kind of like a Stockholm syndrome with Chinese characteristics, because once they get to Beijing, most of the time they are intercepted at the local train station, or when they get to Beijing, they are thrown into what they call black prisons, which are hotels or apartments specifically designed to hold people for who knows how long. And these people, in their minds, they believe that by trying to get to Beijing and petition the capital government, that they will be helped with their redresses, which is just absolute madness. Absolute madness. So I just wanted to make a comparison with the modern day white guards and the traditional red guards of the Cultural Revolution.